Well, welcome to Focus Gaming News, and today we have with us Dima Reiderman, COO at BtoBet. Hi, Dima. How are things in Malta?
Hi, Joseph. Thank you for having me. Everything's great over here. Still fighting with the COVID, but doing well. Malta is one of the better places to be. So happy to have this opportunity.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it's good to see you. How obviously you say you're still fighting with the impact of the pandemic, of course, like most of us. But do you think this year looks to be settling down a little bit after the impact of the pandemic on sports betting last year?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if we compare looking at 2020 versus this year, you have to keep in mind that back in 2020, a big part of the year was heavily affected with the pandemic in terms of having between none to almost no sports events through a better part of the year. And we've seen the data, we all seen the data, we've seen the impact it has on the industry. Luckily for us, we have some regulated markets with really profound information we can learn. And I'm happy to say that for this year, we're starting to see in Q1, as the sports are returning, and now there's a steady flow of sports events. I mean, all the major leagues are back. Champions League is back in full glow. We see the market stabilizing, recovering from previous numbers, but also we're seeing some growth. If we're looking forward to what's ahead of us in 2021, we have to remember this is a key year in the sense there's some big events coming up, right? We obviously have the Euro 20 who's been postponed, which is now Euro 21. Yeah. We're also looking at Copa America, which is a key event, especially for us at BtoBet. We have a very strong foothold in the Latin American market. Then there's the Olympics, which are tentatively there, and hopefully for all of us, we get to enjoy that. So if we look at all of this combined together, I think it shows a good prospect for this year. I think in most of the sports, they've been figured out a way of how to keep it consistently steady, all the events, still combined with some restrictions, but making the sports available and thus making the punters, making those markets available for punters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it certainly seems like a good prospects for rebound for traditional sports after last year. Do you think that means in terms of markets, things are almost going back to business as usual? Or will there be some lasting impact, do you think, from last year's events, particularly in terms of that kind of scramble for other possible betting markets, virtual sports, esports, and all of that?
We've all seen the boom in those in the last year. I mean, as soon as the regular sports went down, everybody wanted to enrich their virtual sports offering and esports. And I think that was a great kind of a platform for those sports and the relevant providers for them to give them the boost they needed in last year. We can see from the data in the markets that those trends they tend to come down a bit to their natural proportion. I mean, if we look into Italy, for example, we can see that casino, virtual sport, and esports, they were traditionally before the pandemic around 1/3, maybe a little bit more in terms of market share, and it climbed all the way over being the majority while the pandemic was in full blown. But now that the sports is back, you can see that the regular sports betting has recovered fully, and those alternative products have returned to sort of their natural state, so to speak. And I think for those products, there's a learning curve for every player. I mean, if you like to bet on regular sports, it will take some time for you to get used to something which is new. And I'm sure that some of those players will, they'll find something they like, they'll be fond of it. So I think that the trend is there. I mean, these are growing. Definitely esports is something to look at. However, with the return of regular sports, it's been put back to proportion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how about in terms of the transition from retail betting to online? Obviously, huge surge in online betting. Do you think we can expect that to continue now, even as retail betting outlets start to reopen?
Interesting you ask, because we see trends where pre-pandemic period you have in some countries retail, in some, I would say, traditional markets, mature markets, you see the retail being stronger than the online in that sense. And yes, retail is slowly but steady will return to our lives. The early indication of those trends show us that although many punters will go back to their original betting behavior in terms of retail, however, first, some have progressed into the online. We see also some trends where punters are now exploring both. So sometimes the actual pie of the bets is becoming bigger. So there may be a split between retail and online that's still there, but in some cases, the pie itself has been enlarged, which is obviously good news for our industry. But also these behaviors, I would say they're different per market. If you look at some markets that we will have good presence, like Africa, for example, the retail betting provides much more than a betting experience. I mean, in some cases, it's a social club. People go to interact. People go to get a coffee, to get a Wi-Fi. I mean, we need to remember in some of those emerging markets, a betting shop is not only a betting shop. It's much more than it. So I think that the trends are different. It depends on where you look. Looking on the operator side, it's something that we noticed from our end. A lot of the retail operators had to kind of speed up their transition process as a result. And we have some good examples looking at a similar situation in the past. Most of us have forgot, but we had a mini pandemic here in 2003 or 2004, where the SARS virus has hit it. And if we look at Asia, we look at China, I'm going to use two examples that everybody knows today, but nobody heard of them before. It's JD and Alibaba. I mean, these are companies that today are huge, huge billion worth companies, while they were pretty non-existing before the previous SARS pandemic. And what happened that it was very similar to today's dynamic, in the sense that retail has to be closed down or significantly impacted. And now these companies, they face a question: well, how do we evolve? How do we tackle this challenge where our traditional consumers are locked at home? And so, if we look at them, they invested heavily into the digital transformation. And, a few years later, look at it today. I mean, Alibaba is 20, 30 billion worth, and it's a household name. JD is in a similar situation. So I think that a lot of the traditional retail operation, they realize that they have to expedite and kind of accelerate their transition process into the digital space. And we also see that because, we get approached by certain operators: can you help us get online? And it's not only a technology question, but a lot of them are also looking for the expertise and maybe even the managed services solution, in terms of how do we get online and how do we get there fast and how do we get there successfully. So to answer your question, I think that the retail is not back yet, and it's visible in the numbers, but the retail guys are trying to compensate by expediting the digital transition into the online.
So it's interesting what you say, that in these emerging markets where it's not only the extension of internet coverage and mobile use that are key to the transition online, then you think that there are other factors, like this social factor that you mentioned in Africa. Do you think though that it's going to be a kind of hybrid, where most retail businesses are going to want to have an online presence as well?
Absolutely. And I can give you an example. We have a retail operator in Tanzania which went online with us, Win Princess, and they were in a very similar situation. I mean, they had a couple dozen shops affected, and one of the key factors is it's a little bit of the unknown. I mean, it's closed, and nobody can really tell you when are you going to open again. So the option of kind of sitting and waiting for it was, it's not a very good option to have. So they approached us looking for a solution. We were able to deliver a fast solution to the market for them, and they're operating successfully online. So yes, especially in Africa, I think that element is super important. There's also, and you mentioned it as well, there's also the technology aspect that is different between the markets. It takes a specific expertise, I would say, to fit to those emerging markets. I mean, if we look at Western Europe, then everybody's using the same iPhones, Chromes, Apples, Macs, and it's so different. It's so different when you dive into the African continent. To give you an example, top of my head, one of the most popular browsers out there is Opera Mini Extreme, which is unheard of in the Western world. But the whole idea is a solution that fits a market where data is expensive and low data is a mandatory requirement. So somebody with a low-end phone should be able to perform the same actions that you and I would do on our iPhone, right? So that plays a big factor, and I'm happy to say that over the years we've accumulated that expertise and have a bunch of those products available to address that market. Yeah.
Excellent. And what regions do you have your eye on at the moment? Where do you think we'll be seeing interesting things happening in the near future?
Well, for BtoBet, I think that first and foremost, our priority is to consolidate our presence in our traditional strongholds. I refer mainly to Africa and Latin America. In Africa, we operate in, if I'm not mistaken, 30 countries. So it's a pretty wide coverage, and I believe we are now recognized as the choice of entry point. If you want to go to Africa, you have to go to BtoBet. So I think we have a good presence there, and we're going to keeping our leading position. In Latin America, it's also definitely, I think, something we're currently, especially in the last, I would say, 6 to 12 months, been recognized as the probably choice to go. And as a testimonial to that, we have key partnership recently launched with names such as William Hill and Betfair, and we operate today in Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and additional markets up there. So for these are our priority. We're strong and we want to remain strong, and we want to remain as the number one choice for those. In the near future, I can share, we have some contracts already in the pipeline and some are signed. I cannot share all the juicy details, but I'll tell you that we'll be launching in one of the largest Eastern European markets right before the Euros. So it's really right ahead of us. And then a few more European deals in 2020. So in the short term for BtoBet, we'll be looking to expand into Europe. We'll probably use the power of the group, so to speak, after being acquired by Aspire Global, who is a kind of a well-recognized name in the European market. We'll be taking on Europe together with them. So we'll be taking to UK, we'll be taking to the other Western European markets. So I think that consolidating our presence and where we're good already, but expanding to Europe in the short term and look forward to the news is something we're focusing on this year. Okay,
excellent, exciting stuff. We'll look forward to seeing that expansion coming soon. Well, thank you, Dima, for your time, for your thoughts. Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Yes, maybe I'll give you a little bit of glimpse onto future plans. Markets aside, I think you will see from BtoBet in the coming year and two, you'll see a heavy investment on product, and not only in the sense that's just making it better, but also a heavy emphasis on innovation. We intend to present to the market some sport marketing tools and sport analysis tools that are really market first. They're really market first, and they'll be exclusive to the operators that will join with us. These are machine learn based algorithms that we've been working for the past few years together with our partners. And we believe that we need to provide to our partners not only the right solution, but also the competitive edge they need over their, in the markets that they operate. So you will see social betting, you will see tournaments in sports betting, you will see proactive sports marketing where there is a personalized, think of Netflix suggesting you the next movie. So think of Netflix suggesting you the next bet to take with the best possible outcome individually for you. So we had a lot of that in motion, and we're really, really excited to launch that. We're looking at very, very near future. Super excited about it. There's going to be a big campaign, and yeah, I wish I could tell you more, but you have to stay with us and stay tuned.
Excellent. So we're talking the next few months. So what sort of time scale are we thinking?
Absolutely, next few months. I think we'll be able to introduce the first maybe even a couple of them before the Euros. So hopefully even that fast. But then you'll see a continuous rollout through the year. Like I said, we have a big focus on perfectioning our product and making it really stand out in the market, while also providing exclusive tools that nobody else will be able to provide.
Excellent. Well, it's certainly a good year for it, with a big year of sport. It's something to look forward to from BtoBet.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Dima Reiderman, COO at BtoBet. Thank you for your time, for joining us. We'll speak again soon.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Thank you for having me.